Welcome to the Root of Power podcast, where I teach you how to chase your joy, find alignment, and create a life and a business that you love, using actionable methods, interviews, and inspiring stories from people who know that true freedom is found within. I'm your host, your always hype woman and sometimes ass kicker, Amanda Chills, and I am so proud of you for choosing to step into your power. Come along, we've got dreams to build. Okay, my love, I have put everything that I offer for free on one page so that we are not doing more work than we have to, because why would we do that? Hashtag work smarter, not harder. So livemyhappyhealth.com/free. You are going to find everything I've created for not only leveling up in your personal life and building a life that you love, but leveling up in your business life and building a business that you love. Okay? livemyhappyhealth.com/free. Love you. Okay, hi. I got a request to do an episode on navigating anger and disappointment. And if you also want to check out my episode on the importance of emotional regulation, that's going to be a really good episode too. But let me talk about these two specifically. This will probably be a shorter episode, but let's jam on it. So, navigating hard emotions, anger, disappointment, grief, those can be really heavy, right? So the goal with those is that we allow space for them. Just like you wouldn't expect yourself to run 3 marathons in a row. Like, I know people do that, but they train for a really long time to do that. You, as a not psychotic human being who doesn't run ultra marathons, which I'm sure they're not psychotic, but like, damn, that's a whole skill set. You wouldn't expect yourself to run a marathon 2 days in a row after not training. So when your nervous system gets hit with a heavy emotion like grief, like anger, like disappointment, those are kind of heavy. You want to give yourself the room to just let them be. This is the most important thing that you can do. Let them be. Your body is smarter than you. Your little gnomes in your brain will work through them as long as you give them the space to. Your body will regulate. The body is a regulating machine as long as it has the space to do so. So when you experience something that's heavy, really the most important thing you can do is rest and give yourself space. Now, a lot of people will get themselves in trouble by distracting, but distracting is not what you want to do, because if you're taking in stimulation, your body and your brain can't clear what it needs to clear. So you want to do something that's extremely low stimulation, extremely low stimulation. Like, I'm talking sit with yourself and let your brain wander, let your brain think, let your brain ruminate on parts of it, so that it can clear what it needs to clear. It can make sense of what's happening, and it can decide what to do and what to keep and what to move forward. So when I say ruminate, what I mean is, like, let your brain go over the sequence of events, let your brain take what you need to take from it, but don't stay in it, right? There's a difference between like allowing yourself to feel something and wallowing in those feelings. When your emotion is ready to go, it will go. We don't want to hold on to it and be like, oh, I like this pity party. I like being angry. It feels righteous to be angry. It feels good to be angry. If I'm angry, I don't have to feel what I'm actually feeling. If I'm angry, if I'm wallowing in this disappointment, I don't have to do something about it. I don't have to figure out why this was so disappointing. I don't have to admit to myself that I'm disappointed. I don't have to feel these things. So wallowing is actually a form of escape. Sometimes you're escaping moving on. Sometimes you're escaping going deeper. It depends which emotion we're wallowing in. If we're wallowing in anger, you're avoiding going deeper. And if we're wallowing in like grief or sadness or disappointment, you're avoiding moving on. So either way, you want to it's almost like, if you imagine there's like a goat living in a field, right? Let's say you live next door to a farm, and this farm has goats or horses in the field. Like, you're not going to go stick your nose to that goat or that horse and follow them around 24/7. Like, that's completely unreasonable. That's ridiculous. What you are going to do is, like, sometimes play with them, maybe sometimes give them little snackies, But mostly you're gonna let them live in the field. Your emotions are the same way. You want to make room for them, you want to allow them to be, you don't want to drown underneath them. You don't want to make them the only thing that you're seeing, which means that you're gonna have to energetically create some distance from those. So it's helpful to know a few things. One, you are always bigger than your emotions. There's always room for them. Always. They are never bigger than you. If you feel that they are taking up too much space, you can just expand the space that you have. And you can do that a couple ways. You can do that by literally like imagining the space opening up around that emotion. So if you're carrying that emotion in your stomach or in your chest, you can just imagine your rib cage expanding, and that's going to create some room for that. You can imagine your muscles releasing, and that's going to create some room for that. So, visualization is a really good one. You can also just kind of zoom out. So, if you're looking at like that emotion as a map, and that map is really close in front of your face, you can zoom out. You can pull it away from your face and put it down. So, energetically, we're going to want to create some distance there, but not fight it. We don't want to fight it. We don't want to resist it. What you resist will persist. We just want to allow it to be. That's the biggest thing that we're doing here. You'll find that as you allow it to be, it'll dissipate on its own. It will go away on its own. And then we want to take the lesson. Why was I disappointed? Why was I angry? What was actually going on here? Oh, I was disappointed because I didn't get what I wanted. Okay, that's totally legit. You're allowed to be disappointed by that. Maybe you really wanted this thing. Let's figure out how to get it, or let's accept that we didn't get it and release it, because fighting it is not going to help you. So radical acceptance is another skill that we want here. Things are how they are. We cannot fight how things are. We can only do what we have within our power to do. And sometimes the only thing we can do is accept it. Sometimes that's our only option. So if that's your only option, I encourage you to take that option as many times as you need to for it to really stick. That's a practice that you're going to have to do a bunch of times. Um, with anger specifically, how to release anger is you need to get underneath it. So anger is always, always, always armor. It is always a secondary emotion. You're angry because you feel disrespected, you feel hurt, you feel jealous, you feel taken advantage of, you feel ashamed, embarrassed, guilty, whatever. Anger is armor protecting you from what you're really feeling, because that bigger emotion feels unpleasant. So that is the emotion that we want to get to. So I literally have clients ask themselves, like, what's underneath my anger? You're always going to know the answer. Always. Then we want to feel that and say, okay, I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. I feel guilty. I'm disappointed. I'm hurt. Um, that's the emotion that you actually want to feel. And then we're doing everything I just mentioned before. We're letting that particular horse live in the field. We are creating some space from it. And for it, we are just letting it be. Let it be. Your brain and your body know what they're doing when you give them the space to do it. That means that you're going to have to literally sit with it, not necessarily in it. We want to sit with it. When it's ready, it'll get up and walk away. They will not stay forever. They will stay forever if you try and avoid them or if you try and fight them. Then they're never going away. But when you just totally release it, it'll walk away on its own. So, dealing with anger and disappointment, dealing with unpleasant emotions are part of life, right? You can't shut yourself off from those things. I mean, you can. It makes for a really shitty life, though. So, I don't recommend that. But it's everything or it's nothing. So, like, yeah, sometimes you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be angry. You're going to be triggered. You're going to be sad. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to be ashamed. You're going to be guilty. You're going to be those things sometimes. And you're going to be happy. You're going to be proud. You're going to feel loved and loving. Like, you can't have one without the other. It's the whole spectrum or it's nothing. And we want to be open to everything that life has to offer. Love is, but also love is. Life is everything. It's everything or it's nothing. And the happiest people I've ever met, where I get clients to, is to experience life so fully and so deeply. That means that you experience everything. We don't shut the door on anything. We just let everything come and go, which is an acceptance practice and also a letting go practice. So, specifically dealing with disappointment, anger, grief, all of those things, like, make some room for them. You always have room. They are never, ever, ever bigger than you. You always have room for them. Let them be. I know you want to fight them. I know that you don't want them here, but they have their place too. We don't want them to like drive the bus. We don't want to necessarily give them a microphone, but they're welcome at the table. They're part of you. They're trying to tell you something. So take the lesson, leave the pain. That's something that you can definitely do. And I highly encourage you to do it. Like asking yourself, why am I feeling this way? What's happening? Like, it's okay to be honest about those answers, and then they will dissipate in time as long as you give them the room to. And that's going to mean sitting with yourself and being kind of honest. Well, being honest, not kind of like being fully honest. And then with anger specifically, I want you to ask yourself, what's underneath my anger? And then feel that feeling because that's where the money is. That's where the magic is. That's what you're actually feeling. And your anger is doing what your anger does, which is trying to protect you. And we love that. Thank you very much, anger. But in order to actually release it, like you're going to have to feel what's underneath that. So that's how to do anger and disappointment or any like other unpleasant emotion. But I would also really encourage you to go listen to the emotional regulation episode because I talk in a much broader concept about like the ability to regulate emotions and to use them as lessons and all of those things. Yeah. So if you have questions, if you like need something, shoot me a message on Instagram. And if this was helpful, if you don't mind leaving a review, that would be super dope. Or like send it to someone who you think it would be helpful for. That would also be super dope. Really anything that you do is super dope as long as it's like helpful. But those two things are actually really helpful for the podcast. So go allow things to be. They will pass. Good times will come again. And the more that you just allow things to be as they are, allow your emotions to go in their own time, the quicker they're going to come and go. And the longer that the emotions that you do want, happiness, love, joy, the longer that they stay. So the better you get it, just allowing things to be what they are, just holding space for those emotions and giving yourself what you need for that time, the faster you're going to come out of it and the less you're going to hold on to them, which means the more room you have for happiness and joy and all the things that you like that we do want. Although we want all of it because again, it's all or it's nothing. And people who cut themselves off from all their emotions end up with only misery. But people who allow everything to come and go end up pretty content. So, hope that was helpful. Go have a beautiful day.